and experience firsthand what is going on, and then to take that message back. So that's a very practical thing we'd like you to do, and yeah. Thank you.
Bismillah. Well, being from a Hindu background, I think you can appreciate the concept of karma. And to quote John Lennon, instant karma is going to get you. It's going to knock you up your head. You better get yourself together. Pretty soon you're going to be dead. And so I think that's a good place to start. That we tend not to think of.
It was all such fun, John, wasn't he?
Yeah.
He's the bum beetle.
Well, I appreciate John Lennon. Yeah, I think British establishment had a more difficult time with him, but I quite like him.
That's really mean.
Anyway, every religion teaches the idea that there's responsibility. And I think karma is I might not agree with all the ideas in Hinduism with karma just because I come from a different faith tradition. But in Christianity, Judaism, and Islam, you have the idea of you reap what you sow. And inculcating this, I'm a British moralist, and just to be fair to the Brits, because I do actually like the British quite a bit. I'm Irish, by the way, so I'm just going to let you know I've got a chip on my shoulder. So. But the fact is that if you, a British moralist said that if you don't believe in the day of judgment, you should live your life as if you did. That we need more accountability, we need more responsibility, and inculcating in young people. I mean, we have a culture that's really teaching us the worst things. I mean, this $700 billion bailout for people that really should be going to prison. And I think it's a dangerous message throughout that we're sending to young people constantly. We have a culture of celebrity where people can do the worst things and be rewarded for them. We have a culture where, we have television programs like Jackass where you can do completely stupid and idiotic things and get your 15 minutes of fame. And it encourages this type of thing. Whereas I think religions are telling us that we're much bigger than this. We're something extraordinary. Human beings are really something quite extraordinary. The ant is extraordinary. The spider is extraordinary. The bee is extraordinary. The mosquito is extraordinary. There's people that spend their entire lives, malariologists they're called, and they spend their entire intellectual career studying one tiny little creature that God created. And we are the apex, according to the Abrahamic faith. We are the apex. We are the pinnacle of what this is all about. We have this incredible consciousness, and if we don't really help young people to tap into that. Chilton Pierce wrote a wonderful book called The Magical Child, and there are other books like that have dealt with the spirituality of children. Children are so extraordinarily spiritual. I mean, I've got these little kids that, they're like theologians. My 5-year-old is like a theologian. He's asking all the right questions. And what puts that out? What puts that incredible interest and desire to know? Aristotle said all humanity desires to know. We want to know. And I think really inculcating that love of learning and education and then giving it back, because you're either a giver or a taker in this world. Muhammad Ali said, everybody's occupying space, and the rent that you pay to God for that space is service to others. And I think it's a really solid insight.
Thank you for the inspiring speeches. My name is Randa Kazez, and I'm currently the Vice President of MSA National and a board member of Malaria No More's Muslim Advisory Board. MSA National has been serving students in the United States and Canada since 1963 by empowering, educating, and facilitating networking to create leaders of tomorrow. MSA National has had the opportunity to work with Malaria No More by being present on a Muslim delegation to Mali to participate and observe the distribution of more than 2.1 million bed nets. It was quite an amazing experience, actually. Also, they have raised money for Malaria No More by hosting local fastathons, a day in which hundreds of students of other faiths fast, with Muslim students during Ramadan in order to raise money for a local cause. Today I would like to ask 2 questions. First, what do you believe is the major hurdle that is preventing countries from fulfilling the Millennium Development Goals, and more specifically within the context of malaria, which, as Salima said, is like dying from a broken arm? What do you believe are the factors that are contributing to the perpetuation of preventable disease in the world? And do you believe that political instability is at the heart of this issue? Thank you very much.
Thank you. To our panel, if we could keep our answers sort of a minute, 2 minutes, so that we can hit the bar.
That's me, is it? Yeah. Okay. Well, let me just say 2 things. The first is that the causes of poverty and then therefore the need to meet the Millennium Development Goals are obviously profound, and they're deep, and of course they are economic and social and political. And my own view of this is the reason why I put at the heart of the G8 summit that I chaired in 2005, Action on Africa. We did it as a partnership. You know, actually, in the end, the solution to Africa's problems will come from within Africa. It's when Africa itself, I often say, our aim in the work that I do in Africa now with various governments, trying to build capacity in those governments to get things done, to root out corruption, proper legal systems, commercial systems, and so on. I keep saying to them, your aim, guys, is to kick the donor community out. You know, your aim is never to be dependent on somebody else's money or somebody else's charity. So I think the causes of this are deep, and we could go on for ages about them, but I think they're at least identified, and there are partners within Africa and countries within Africa that are doing the right things and making a difference. However, I just wanted to say this other thing, though, which is the reason why I feel so passionately about the malaria campaign, why I wanted to join the foundation to it, is that, it is true that in the end, if you cure these socioeconomic problems, you can deal with malaria too. But meanwhile, thousands of kids die every day. And meanwhile, there's something that can be done now. And the thing about it is that it can be done now if we activate the international community, and also if we at least get the basic elements within those countries to distribute the bed nets and the medicines. And so it's never, the long-term solution comes from within. The long-term solution is building a polity and an economy and a society that can sustain what is, the thing about Africa is a rich continent full of poor people, and that is the tragedy of Africa. But now, today, we can do something immediate for those children to save them from dying, and actually to allow them then to play a part in creating that Africa of hope and prosperity of the future. Thank you.
I would say that one of the major problems is not being in touch with things directly, not actually seeing and experiencing things. Jared Diamond, who people know, Guns, Germs, and Steel, if anybody saw the National Geographic documentary, when he was actually in the hospital where all the kids were dying of malaria, he broke down. It was very cerebral, abstract scientist, but when he got there and just saw it, he literally just broke down and couldn't even talk. And he just said, I write about all these things, about germs, and he said, but to see this is just too overwhelming. And one of the things that always struck me about in Africa, being with West Africans in particular, is the incredible stoicism. I was just really struck by that. We've lost a lot of that, but very stoic in the face of these problems. I would see if there was one fundamental problem preventing so much of this from happening, it's simply human greed, which can be treated, by the way. And I wrote a book that has a chapter on the treatment of greed called Purification of the Heart. So greed is one of the things that religion addresses in dealing with, of really treating greed, because it can be treated. And we tend to forget that the 7 deadly sins in Catholicism have their correlations in the virtues. And the correlation of greed is the virtue of generosity, of giving. And even if the hedonistic principle, which is an important principle in philosophy, I think, really is recognizing that the most pleasurable experiences are giving other people pleasure.